What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy. This is Papa Roo coming right at you. I want to get into the subject matter at hand. First, I want to give thanks to the Most High for all. This is the third day of doing what has been put on my spirit to be able to help assist people with some of the wisdom and knowledge that I may hold, being 60 years old and being around for a while. And I just want to go ahead and just, give back with all the help that I've had over the years, whether it might be a little, maybe a lot, but I want to give back to so many people who are in a bad place, people who might be looking for answers, people who might be needing help or assistance by a simple question, by picking an old man's brain who might be able to give you, like I like call it, gold nuggets. You know, this question today though is, do you dislike your relationship but hate being alone? It's interesting. When I was younger in age and out there and I was dating and all that stuff, even though I was having women, I still was a lonely cat. And, it made me really think about how lonely it is when you are connected with somebody that you was never meant to be connected with. And, the funny thing too is, as you grow older and you realize that sometimes the person that you was with, you could have made it work and it could have been a whole lot better. But I here on Saturday want to come out to you. It's not by chance or coincidence or accident that you are here, stopping by, watching this show. This is my second channel, my other channels out there, but I decided I was going to start this channel here and make some type of impactful, um, giving advice to people's lives. And hopefully there be those who call in and ask a question, because it's good to have another side of opinion, somebody else's perception, their view on matters that might be able to help and assist you. And I tell you, I've experienced a lot in my day. I've experienced a lot, whether it is business, whether it is marriage, whether it is um, traveling and finances, budgeting. I mean, I have experienced a whole lot, from children to divorce, a whole lot of things in my life. And I've helped out, mentored, I've coached, I've done a lot in my time. And I realized that there is a lot of hurt people, just like I used to be, in pain, looking for answers, trying to make a turn, trying to make things better. And you just keep failing and making the wrong decisions. A lot of us don't have mentors. A lot of us don't have family members who at least got half a sense to be able to help and assist you along the way. Some of us come from one parent families. Some, have the disfortunate to not have fathers in their lives or mothers in their lives, to be able to create a balance of perceptions of ways of being able to handle what life throws at you. I share with my kids, even though through a divorce, that they missed really the most important time of their life. It was their teenage years when they were with their mother. Um, they didn't have a lot of impactful words from me because of the fact that divorce separates. One moves away and you become a over the weekend, every 2 weeks, whatever, visitation. And it's just not the same when you're in a household with the with your family on a day-to-day basis, where you can share with them and pour into them and feed into them and motivate, encourage, all these things. And you know it's sad when it happens, but even like today, 72% of households, especially in our community, children being raised by the moms. Fathers are not there. And for whatever reason, the breakup in the relationships and how the child may have come, it seems that the child is going to suffer. Matter of fact, stats show that a child who is being raised in a single parent home is very unlikely to be successful in life. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be, go up, grow up, and maybe, get them a job or maybe even go to school. But They have a long, hard road. But subject matter at hand. Do you dislike your relationship? Don't you know, but do you hate being alone? You know, I also find that many people who are in relationships, and I'm going to read you all, a few stats because this is really eye opening that many people think they're going to be in a worse situation if they got married. And stats show that more people who are married say that they are happier than those who are dating. Listen to this right here, you all. Married individuals significantly more likely to report being very satisfied or thriving in their relationship compared to those who are living together but not married. Overall satisfaction, according to Pew Research Center, 58% of married adults say they say things are going very well in their relationship compared to only 41% of cohabiting adults relationships quality. Data from the General Social Survey indicates that about 70% of married individuals report being very satisfied with their relationship, whereas only about 50% of cohabiting partners report the same negative outlook. That's very interesting because I'm going to tell you, when I went through my divorce, I was a lonely guy because I'm a relationship type of guy. And I believe, as scriptures say, this is just a universal law because everything that was created with the opposite. And yet we as humans, we miss out on the grand scheme of things when it comes to really getting married and becoming a one force in the matter of a family network. Let me go ahead and put the link in, because we have four people in, which I am uh so thankful that you all have stopped in just to lend an ear. And maybe you want to call in. You can go ahead and keep your face covered, be anonymous if you so will. Nobody will see you. Or you can also call in if you will. I'm going to go ahead and put what you'll see scrolling down the bottom there. You can call area code 234 200 6720. That's right. Papa Roo right here has got some answers for you. And I know that many people even think that, hey, they might be older or what have you. I even know that, even younger folks may be able to give information that you may not even know of. So, well, no matter what your age is, you might have some children issues, grandchildren questions, or you might have some retirement, finances, budgeting, whether have some relationship questions, what have you. We've had a great time just yesterday. One young man called in yesterday and had a fear of getting married. I hope he's watching today so that he could see the percentage of people who are married percentage is higher of being satisfied than those who are dating. That's powerful. That's a matter of fact, that should be inspiring for someone to really look at the relationships because it's also reported that in the notes that I have here, listen to this right here. In the United States, marital status and race significantly influences reported levels of loneliness and social isolation. Single adults are nearly twice as likely. Single adults are nearly twice as likely as married adults to report feeling lonely on a weekly basis, with rates of 40% for single compared to 22% for being married. Despite the protective nature of marriage, approximately 1 in 6 married adults, roughly 17%, still report feeling lonely within their relationship. Loneliness by marital status, married individuals generally experience lower rates of loneliness and higher life satisfactions than their unpartnered counterparts. You know, a lot of us who are in unhappy relationships, I'm going to say this right here that I had to learn. It's better to make it work and move forward and build than to go ahead and sever ties and start from scratch. When I went through divorce, I'm gonna tell you the hardest thing, because when you with somebody, it's an investment. It's an investment when you invest your time, your energy. you both are trying to understand each other. You begin to grow and understand what the do's and don'ts, what your likes, dislikes, or theirs are. And then when things really don't go each other's way, you decide to sever ties and start all over again. And matter of fact, stats are going to show that even when you go to the next relationship, it gets worse because of the baggage that you carry and that weight that you put on the other individual, whether it's distrust, whether it is, not having a connection with them because your heart might be elsewhere, your mind, your energy, your spirit might be elsewhere, and you're not giving them the time that maybe deserve to really truly get to know them. You might be apprehensive, you might have fear, you might have doubts. These are things that many people don't understand when it comes to relationships. And when you end it, you set yourself up for a greater failure when you're reconnecting with somebody else. You know, you can't argue with data when you have it right there in front of you. But, I put the link in the chat and I'm looking for someone just to call in. You might have a question for your loved one, for some family member, for friends, whatever. However, which way it is, I do know it's 11 o'clock at night. And it would sure be good to have somebody call in and have a chat with. Yeah, because even two people together who bring on a conversation can build off of each other. And that's a lot of things that I see that we are really disconnected today. I had, when I was coaching high school basketball, and, when I used to come into a new high school and, you have to meet the players, meet the student body, and, you just a new guy on the block. Many people don't know how to relate to you. Many people don't even want to bond with you until they get to know you. And then you look at it, this is that those who stand on the wayside or on the sidelines, who really just don't even want to, really get to know you, you can really miss out. That very answer you've been looking for might be right there in that individual. Let me say that again, because it took me years to understand it when it hit my spirit. Never shy away for a conversation from those who are next to you, because that person might be holding on to the answer that you have been looking for. That's powerful. And I have a plethora of skill sets and work experience and just life experience in general that many people tell me, man, I've helped them over the years. And it's a beautiful thing when it comes to some of your students, some of your people that you used to mentor, look you up on social media, find where you are and reach out to you and say, hey, you remember me? You remember when you told me this? And it's like, it's a great thing. But this loneliness, though, how that it's amazing that how many people are in relationships. How do you fix a relationship? I can share it with you because I tell you, studying all this right here, not through a book, but through life, and realizing even some of the mistakes I made, man, you can change a relationship around. Because one thing about relationships, people don't go in it with ground rules. They try to figure it out as they go. Let me speak to the men. You know, when young men meet a woman, he doesn't even know the influence he should have over that woman when it comes to him advertising himself to that woman. He doesn't even realize that, because if he has a mindset of wanting to encounter a relationship, shouldn't she know how he like or don't like things? Should she even also be interested to know that if you're inviting me in, because men have the access to relationships, they're the ones who ask a woman to be their woman or engagement or marriage. And it behooves an individual to know who you're dealing with, who you are going to be bonding with, so that you can understand what is their outcomes, what is their expectations. That's something that's very important. And young men think that, of course, because you're young, especially in your 20s, they don't understand about, hey, let me go ahead and when I start in relationships, let me build by at least laying out my how I foresee my future. my goals, how I am as a man, how I would love to see how my relationship should be, the type of woman I don't like, my triggers, how I the things I don't like and the things I do like. I think because of being so young and, immature, many of us don't think about, really laying down some, you know, laws or commandments or statutes within the relationship. There should be lines that an individual shouldn't be able to cross. There should be clear communication with one another to express to each other that how do you want your relationship to go? But because we are in a sexist society, and it's you know jump in the sheets quicker than you can get to know the person, sometimes you wind up leaving the other's heart broken. And then you all of a sudden will walk out the blame game. This is sad, and it happened to me in my younger age, stupid, young, dumb, and full of you know what. But I had to bump my head many a time to even realize that. But raising my children today, I express to them the importance of going into a relationship with meaning, having an idea of how do you want this relationship to go. Is it going to be meaningless or is it going to be meaningful? I mean, we're sometimes, many people, according even to the subject, are stuck with people they don't even like. How do you get out of it? How do you really salvage it, really, if anything? How is it that you are in a relationship and you don't even like the person you're with? Well, it's said that many people stay in a relationship because of the fear of being lonely. The good old Lord said, it is not good for man to be alone. And boy, we know that is the truth. I know that's the truth. It ain't good to be alone. Actually being alone can cause a lot of psychological issues when you stay alone on your own desert island and you are sitting by yourself, can actually have mental consequences, devastating on a mental mindset when one is alone. We are creatures that are meant to be with each other, communicating, not being in solidarity, not being in by yourself, but being in a relationship that hopefully would be healthy. But according to what I'm reading and what I've learned and by my own life experience, you can get trapped in a relationship and you will suffer because loneliness. Think about this right here. How many times have you practiced being alone? Many of us ain't even used to it, and now, I was just thinking about this today. Back in the day, you know, when you had to be alone, you looked alone because there was no cell phone you can just hide behind and flip through and just act like you're going to find who you can text so that you can seem like you're busy, or you just make a frivolous call and just talk to somebody while you're sitting in the restaurant eating because you don't want nobody perceiving that you're alone and you ain't got nobody, I had to learn that. And I had to learn it real quick when I got out of my divorce and I was back in the world by myself. And then, of course, speedily trying to find somebody to cover the gaps of loneliness. And, it wasn't fun. And then all of a sudden, you're because of loneliness, you make the bad decisions. You make the bad decisions to connect with somebody so you can have a warm body. And then you get in a relationship and you eventually find out how they are, and you're like, man, I done connected with this joker, and boy, I needs to get out of here. I'll never forget the very first woman coming out of my divorce was like that. Oh, man, and you learn. And I found out quick, not everybody tell the truth. And not everybody is up front and being honest. And I learned real quickly that you need to go ahead and vet people and make sure that you're not jumping into something that might get you hemmed up. Thankfully, I was very, very, very fortunate that I became selective as time went on. During the time I was divorced, and I decided that I was going to vet the women and to be a little bit more slower in my approach when it came to relationships. You know, and here's the interesting thing, that I found out. Many women found that very odd that I was slow to take my time with them. They wanted me to rush and, you know, get with them sexually, or, even hurrying up and going out on a date instead of just talking. I mean, and just looking back, it just makes me laugh because I was 45 years old when I went through my divorce. And I started to get out here and talk to women and stuff. And when I decided I was going to take my time after a couple of relationships up front, and I was like, I'm gonna slow roll this thing right here. I'm just gonna take my time. I don't need to be just getting with anybody and trying to jump in the sheets, whatever. I'm gonna take my time with this. The amount of names that women can call you when you decide you ain't gonna go that route, like jump into bed all quick with them. Oh, call you gay, or what's wrong with you, or and then women take it very personal too. And it's not to beat up on women, but women take it personal when they see that you're not trying to get with them on that side of level like that, and you just want to go ahead and get to know them a little bit. They begin to start to feel like even sometimes something is wrong with them. And it's like, nah, ain't nothing wrong with you. Look, being 45 back then, that was God, time goes by so fast, 15 years ago. And explaining to women that how I was, why I was doing what I was doing, I was started to really be selective because I begin to understand that everybody's got past traumas and dramas, and people got a lot of things they got to walk through. And when I was going through my period of just being quiet and sitting still, I realized that if I was going to look for a woman, I wanted her to be at least going through that same work I was putting myself through. Now, many people think that it's just like, that's just a joke, or it's just, he's not serious. But out here in this dating world, I'm gonna tell you, many people aren't serious. I found many women claim they want men, but they're not serious. And but then they talk about being lonely, or talking about being by themselves, or looking for the right one. I'm gonna tell you, a large percentage of the women I came across was just not serious. Now, to keep it balanced so that those aren't offended when I'm talking to here, I also found that us men, when we go through divorce, a lot of us ain't trying to be serious. But I'm different because I'm a married type of guy, because my thing is that if I'm single, I know I'm going to mingle. And that's just how it is. I'm like, I don't like to put up with anything, especially if there's a lot of mess and drama coming from an individual. But if I'm married, I'm going to put my best foot forward and we're going to work it out. And I found that when I am married, I got a lot more patience versus when I'm dating. It's little that I want to deal with, especially with a person you would think would be older and maybe, trying to at least put their best foot forward. Very tough situation. But hey, we got 5 people watching, and I would love for somebody to call in and ask a question. Or the link is in the chat. It's the only thing here. Everybody tell me hello. Can everybody go ahead and just type in, hey, Papa Roo? I would love for that to happen. This is communication, you all. I understand, that y'all don't know me and I don't know you, but hey, send me a message. Hey, Papa Roo, how are you doing? Because peace and blessings to each and every one of you all as y'all flip on by and you're going by and you're looking for subject matters or whatever. Give a shout out to the old man, but you're more than welcome to hit the link and call in, ask a question. Because I mean, I had to walk through the hard drama of being single and by myself. You know, I remember even right in the early stages after my divorce, I forced myself to be by myself. I was married for 17 years previously. Before then, I dated and dated and dated. I ain't never been alone. And I realized, I said, man, it's been years since I've been alone. And I had to force myself because I was in the military, and military, we always have something going on, you know. And started out my career was in the dormitories. You're always around people, people always around you. And then I moved out of the barracks when I got my promotions, a little rank on my shoulder. You move out there, get your apartment, you might have a roommate or whatever, but you start to find out more about yourself when you sit still. When you sitting still and learning about yourself, I'm gonna tell you, that loneliness right there can be a good thing, but it also could be a bad thing. But what I found out, you all, what a good old Papa Roo found out was the fact that I didn't like it. I felt unedged. It brought on a little anxiety being alone. It made me feel like that I was just, worthless in a sense. Like I ain't got nobody. You know, it happens. It happens to the best of us when you don't have that special person in your life and you trying to find a person and it's taking you a long time to find them, and you begin to have that feeling of loneliness, and it's a hard pill to swallow. And even us men, and I'm gonna tell you this right here, I'm a man's man. I'm a leader, and when you out here and you searching and you can't find and you have to sit still, I had to force myself to be alone, go to the movies by myself, go to restaurants by myself, go to concerts and outdoor events by myself. I forced myself, don't talk to no one, because I wanted to be able to know how to enjoy myself. And once I begin to know how to enjoy myself, then I was not gravitating to those to fill in the gap of loneliness. I was able to connect and communicate and not try to rush into something and then finding myself in a bad situation or a bad relationship. This made it successful for me to search and find my wife truly, not making a bad decision, because I turned down many of women who were interested in me, but they just wasn't my type. And it made me be patient and really to go through because one of the greatest things I went through, and people don't recommend it, was dating sites. I mean, my sister back then set me up. Hey, brother Leo, I create you a dating site. I'm like, what you create? I can find my own woman by myself. And she was like, nah, I created you an account on a dating site. She said, because you in one spot. Then women all over. I see, I understand that. So one day I just decided to get on there and I had a few messages and stuff. And before I knew it, I'm out there talking to women, exchanging phone numbers, having conversations. And I'm gonna tell you, I never knew the issues women went through. My ears were filled with a lot of stories and a lot of issues women were going through. But it was a good experience for me to know, how it is for women when they're single, because I already knew how it was for me when I was single. But dealing with being by myself, it was hard for me. It was tough. But as I put myself and I challenged myself and I made sure that I would put myself in a state of being by and being alone, I was able to grow and appreciate my time alone so much that I enjoy now being married. And my wife now, we can be, and I travel the world. We travel together, and I travel by myself. Especially as y'all see back here, Africa, which is my previous channel, Go Black to Africa. I traveled and I've been to many countries, not just Africa, other countries, continents. I lived in 12 different countries, or excuse me, 7 different countries. Um, been to the 6 continents, and traveling by myself doesn't bother me. I have a grand on time by myself, but it has helped me to secure my wife that I found being 5 years single. And now that I'm married, and when me and my wife are apart from each other, I don't miss a beat. Matter of fact, I love my time alone because it gives me an opportunity to digress and, put my thoughts together and, going out on a retreat, man, by yourself and being able to go ahead and establish some thoughts and ideas and really doing some self-reflecting, I think is healing for me. And many people should embrace that. But it is what it is. But it was a great time for me during my time of being divorced. And I know many of us out here are looking for someone who is single. And I know a lot of us just don't know how to go about it. A lot of us just wing it. And, we get out here and we connect with a person, and then we find ourselves in a short span of a relationship, and then we're back out there again by yourself. How do you overcome that? How do you decide that I got to change? I got to be able to do something different than I've done before. Care to hear? Well, hey, as you see across the stream, for those who want to call in, ask a question, pick my brain, need some advice. I like to call them the gold nuggets. Call in at area code, like you see across the screen, 234-200-6720, or hit the link and come into the chat. Let's chat it up. Any questions that you might have, not only just for yourself, it might be for your friend or family. So, for those out there, I hope that y'all can hear me loud and clear. If you can't, please say hello. And also let me know that how do I sound on my audio? Because I've been playing around with my computer today, doing some sound checks, but I do not know whether or not you all on the receiving end can hear. Can somebody please let me know that you can hear me? Please do that for me. Somebody just say yes. That would be great for me to know. If you can hear me, just type in yes, and that would be good for me to know. Besides that, you all, as I continue on, thank you very much. Loud and clear. Sounds good. Hey, I appreciate you all. You know, it's just been a great time. Me starting this channel 3 days ago, my third video. Like I said, this is just a sister channel off of Go Black to Africa. For many of you all who are interested in traveling Africa, this is your man right here who can give you a lot of information on that as well. Something that I do. I do consultations. I'm a businessman. I I have a plethora of different businesses I've been involved in. My story is probably like most people. You had the painful young adult age. You took the bumps and bruises. You went through the breakups, the divorces, and you try to keep fighting through, and you're still here surviving, and you're just trying to make it all work. Hey, we all been through that. And that's why this channel that I've created is for that, because many people I know are out here looking for answers, and the subject matter can be anything. You can ask anything, however, which way you would like to ask it. It doesn't matter, because I'm gonna give it to you. But if anybody wants to do that, please call 234-200-6720 if you're going to make a phone call, or just hit the link right in the chat right there as you see it and be able to come in. You're able to go ahead and become anonymous. You don't have to show your face, and just hit the man. Just pick my brain. Somebody challenge me with a life issue, a life problem, a life question. Somebody test me. I challenge you to challenge me, and calling in and seeing whether or not Papa Roo is all that. And you know what I'm saying? But as I continue on with the subject matter at hand, the dislikes of your own relationship that you're in, that the percentage that I shared earlier is definitely staggering. That over 49% of people who are single and have another claim that they are unhappy. And how is that? Well, tough when you look at the fact that we gravitate quickly to people that we think that they might be the warm body, the person that can fill the gap of loneliness, the person maybe who can fill your void, that the void within you that you may be fighting or running away from. And that's something that you got to be open and honest with yourself. You got to be open and honest with yourself when it comes to being real, and being truthful of why are you alone? Why do you dismiss the ones that you've been with? What is it about you? How is it that you can make a better you? How do you build off of that? How do you do a true self-assessment? These are things that many people don't know. I had to realize that, honesty is the best is the best cure for one's loneliness. When you can really ask yourself, why can't you find the person that you want to be with? Is your bar too high? Is it that you maybe thinking too far out there and really just not in reality? We can fool ourselves. I did it myself, fooled myself. I never forget, having a laundry list of things of what I wanted in a woman. And as time went on, I began to scratch them off. Scratch off the list of the things that I thought were very important and what I thought a woman should be, what type of woman that I was wanting. And that list dwindled all the way down because loneliness sometimes will be able to show you just picky and you looking for, Mrs. Right, you're looking for Miss Right, who is just not out there. And as you begin to dismiss each woman that I was coming encounter with, because I don't like how she, the way she act, oh, the way she lit, the way she, you know, you begin to dismiss people, and you begin to just think that you are just the better of all, and not realizing that you have your issues too. And so when I realized that that list that I had needed to be it needed to be revamped, and I realized that the most important thing to me was that could I find a woman who could accept me, respect me, and love me genuinely? That was it. All that other stuff that I had on there, she had to be like this. She had to have that. She had to have acquired it. She had to be moving this way. She had to be up try to change. All that stuff, I had to throw it over my shoulder because I realized it wasn't getting me anywhere except for still being single. And once I did that, then I began to look at things in a different light. I'm not saying settle for anybody just to be with somebody. No, no, no. I ain't trying to do that. What I'm saying is that when you now move from the temporal things, the physical things, and now it starts to move you towards the spiritual things because now you're interested in how is their heart? Do they have a good spirit? My number one observation when I had met my wife was how do she treat others? I ain't gonna worry about how she treat me because people be fake. How does she speak about people? How does she perceive people? How does she look upon people? Now, she's in the medical field and she has a heart for people, but I wanted to see is she genuine in how, when other people may not treat her right or fairly, what would be her response? Because we do know tables are turned on you when you upset them. And so, just one indication to see how a person reacts is how do they respond to other people? And I was very vigilant in that towards the women that I was out here looking for. I that whole laundry list that I had and I threw in the trash, I realized that I was looking for a woman with a heart. Now I know many people they say, "Well, you mean you wasn't looking for looks?" That played a part, but it was not the top of my list. No, it was not. And people just can't believe that. And I'm like, well, you know, um, we can rate people from 1 to 10 in looks and how they are and all that stuff right there. And when you really be serious about looks of people, people are just average looking people. That's why people got to make up themselves to look beyond than just average. Really think about it. Women put on makeup to try to enhance their beauty, if you will, or enhance their averagism. And men, some might dye their hair, might go ahead and put a toupee piece in, or dye, the beards, or, get a nice crisp haircut, put on some nice attire, put a little bling on. People do that to try to go ahead and just, enhance how they look. But I realized in looking for a woman, the looks was not necessarily important, because majority of the people out here are just average looking people. And sad to say, when you out here looking and when the makeup is on, it's hard to tell how they really look without the makeup, which is very important for a man to find out. How does the woman look without makeup, and how is she naturally? That's one thing that I had loved about my wife, was that she was natural. My wife, she wears very little makeup, but just being natural. But my focus was not the looks. My focus was really the heart. I was like, I just want a woman who can just love me, respect me, and who can have a good heart in this. And we're approaching our 10th year anniversary. Come here on the 13th of this month, you all. And I am thankful for that, because marriage is work. Marriage is work. But I tell you this right here, if it wasn't, and if it was easy, we'd take advantage of it and ruin it. That's what we would do, because that's how we are as humans. We ruin good things. And the challenging things is really what put us really up to uh, fight for what we really know is good for us, because people are just dismissing people in the relationships. And then there are those right here who just wants to hold on because they're lonely. Come on, y'all. Somebody got to go ahead and call in. Somebody's got to call in, make a call for me. I'm doing this video, and as the video comes to an end, I like to title this video based upon the question that was asked. Who is willing to call in to ask a question? Any life question. Believe me, my heart won't be hurt. My feelings won't be, bruised or, jacked up. I'm gonna tell you this right here. I told my daughter this, and between me and my wife, we have 9 children, got one grandchild, and I was telling my daughter that how we as a people, when it comes to us being jacked up people, we have to do self assessments. We have to do. It's important. It's important for us to do self assessments, because how are we else to become better? And I know many people hate to, admit that they have their bad sides, but we have to do better by doing self assessments in order to build and become that rightful person. Hey, Chase, what's happening, man? Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome, man. Hey, if you got a question, man, please call on in. Hey, nobody else is calling in, but please call in and ask another question if you so choose to. You're more than welcome. Um, and the good old man would love to hear somebody's voice, most definitely. Because I'm doing this not just for y'all, I'm doing it for myself too. Because, as we learn and build together, you know, I'm hoping that it makes us a better people. And that's what it comes down to. Can we become a better people and then teach our youth become a better people? Because we all damaged goods, y'all. We are really damaged goods. And who else is out here? Very few of us are out here trying to make things better. We building and motivating, encouraging, even correcting, even trying to help people who are in situations that are detrimental to themselves. You know, Trying to lend a helping hand to people. Giving the advice that I feel as though that is very important. I'm gonna tell you, I'm thankful. Utilized to that capacity. Definitely appreciative. And so, it is what it is. But hey, somebody's got to type a question, and somebody type me a question. Any life issue that you feel as though that you want to ask a question, you can put it in the chat. Surely you're not just flipping all the way through, the videos, just trying to find something to keep you awake at midnight. I mean, Come on, we're approaching midnight here on the East Coast. It might be a little earlier wherever else you might be, but you know, ask the old man a question. But let me finish up with saying that I hope that during this time of whether you're in a relationship or you alone, that I hope that you will find yourself a better person. Or if you have to move on beyond the person you with, according to stats, people are with people they don't even like. People are in relationships that they just hate. People are connected to others and haven't broken it off because of the fact of fear to be alone. And I hope that you find that person for you. But most importantly, I hope that you become that better person for that person that you are hoping for. And that's what I had to walk through. Walking through, getting myself ready for what that woman walks through the door so that I'm the best man fit for her. And I did it. I did it. I was able to snag me one. I was able to snag me a good one too, you know, and very fortunate to have a very sound minded, a righteous woman, a woman who is, I'm gonna say a lady. You know, how do you find those? I could tell you. How do you find a lady? And you know what? I pulled a doctor. How do you pull a high earning woman? I spoke to many of women out there, for those guys out there who are, might be looking for those type of women. Easy, because they only really requiring a few things. That's it. I mean, a few things. That's it. But I've come across them CEOs and VPs and, whether they are company, high officers or whatever it might be. There's a lot of women out here looking for the men. It's just that some men don't know how to get out here and grab those type of women that might be best for them. For me, it didn't matter to me. Most men don't care about, a woman's status or money or, what she does if he's a man and a leader. Most men don't care because we the ones who are going to have it all together and say, like, this is what I have laid out for us. This is how everything's going to be. And your life is going to be easy because guess what? I don't need your money to take care of us. And this is coming from a guy who ain't had no lot of money. Believe me, I wasn't rich, definitely was no high earner, but I was a man who did right with money. I started businesses and I knew how to generate money. I knew how to get the money to work for itself, which then was able for her to see that this dude here, yeah, he's a valuable dude, you know, definitely. And, it's like going fishing. I found too is that when you fishing for women, you got to know what bait to put out there, because not every woman eats the same bait. And you got to know how to discern the spirits of a woman. I've dealt with so many women. I can tell the type of character a woman is just by talking to her in like 2-3 minutes. Yep, I know exactly how she is. Yep, know what exactly she wants. Yep, because I did a lot of studying and had a lot of encounters and just conversations with women. There's like there's only 6 characteristics that I found how women can be. And I found that the ones that were for me was only too tight. And that took a lot of homework, y'all. It took a lot of homework. And even women, they want certain type of men, but don't even know what that man requires. So many women want, oh, I'm looking for a man who is ambitious and a man who is a leader and a man who knows how to take charge, a man who has a vision, a man who is, about building. And they don't even know that type of man, how and what he has or expects or how he behaves. It's easier said than done, the type of person you want. but you got to know what makes them, what it is that they what makes them, what how they act and react. This is the whole concept of relationships. And when many people get in these relationships, they don't know how to bring their character, and how do you mesh it with the character that you're with to bring a peaceful environment, because many people don't understand that your type of character and this other person's character could be oil and water. It just ain't gonna never blend. And you know what? It will never blend. I found out there are characteristics that don't need to be with each other. Now, you hear people talk about, what you call them, horoscopes or whatever, zodiac signs. I guess that's the one right there. I mean, there's some validity to the fact of how people are, based upon, you know, them coming out of mama's womb, the time of season, and all that right there. I truly believe in that. But do you know what characteristics fit what characteristics? I had to make sure I knew that before I selected a woman, and made sure that it had to jive with me. And for the most part, I'm pretty good, right? I'm judge of character, and pretty was I made a really good decision on that right there with my wife and all. And so definitely many of our people are not knowledgeable in that area. There's a saying, be equally yoked. And many people misconstrue that scripture, be ye equally yoked. They think more or less that it means, okay, we got to believe in the same God, or, we got to be like each other. Scripture doesn't talk about that. As far as you can have a non-believing husband or a non-believing wife, and the others are believing, and it gives you instruction on how the two can really continue on in their marriage. So what does it mean to unequally yoke? Because some people run away from relationships because they say, "Oh, we were just too far apart from each other." When in actuality, differences is really the greatest assets that you have. Why would two people want to join together and they like everything alike? I mean, that wouldn't even be adventurous to learn and grow and understand. I'm thankful. My wife, me and my wife travel differently. You know, she wants to check out everything from A to Z. When she lays out her itinerary and we go travel, now it's like, babe, I ain't as young as I used to be. I ain't trying to go to 15 places in a day. You know, I'm going to pick three or four because she wants to check out the whole entire thing while we there. For me, I want to get down with the locals. I want to have conversations with them. I want to learn about what's going on in that country. How do people feel and how do they operate? How do they, do things differently than what we do? That's me. I'm not that typical tourist type of person who wants to go out there and just look at sights. It's just not me. But because of my wife like that, each time that I'm like, I don't know if I want to see that or go visit that. And then I'm like, okay, I'll try that. But you know what? And I'm like, dang, I'm glad I did that, because if I was traveling in this country, I would have never went and saw that or been a part of that. And I call it weird like that. She is more in the side of looking at things that I would have thought about going to visit. And that's what differences do, is you build and grow together. Things that you don't know. Hey, I'm listening, because I don't claim to know everything. And the things that share, because it's like you both are adventurous. Most people, when they're talking about, oh, I want to have a person who's into this or that, who I think of my second video or my first video, young lady was saying, she wants somebody who's outdoor, who's adventurous, and who goes skiing and hiking and stuff like that. Um, Thanks for the conversation. It's very important. Hey, appreciate you. Was it a little? I ain't gonna. I'm gonna mess that up. I'm gonna just put your name up there. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate the kind words. Most definitely. Um, She was talking about, going ski, all this stuff right here. And it's like, you might have to introduce the adventure to the individual you're with, you know, and that's the type of person that really you should be looking for, a person who is willing. I'm willing to try that out because, you know, if I had to really think about the things that I've experienced in life that I didn't like, man, I think I'd be a boring type of person because I mean, sometimes the very things that you hate might be the very thing that you find as your gift. That's the most important thing. And so I appreciate the fact that the differences is really what makes a relationship. But what we do is argue and bicker and complain. We tongue wrestle over issues that because we don't think alike or we don't see eye to eye or we don't and then we just cause all of these issues in our relationships versus getting what I tell people, just get to a place of understanding. That's it. Can you just understand the person? Why are they like that? Why do they think that way? Why do they perceive things to be that way? I mean, this is one of the biggest arguments right now within man and woman in the community is the fact that, you know what? Oh, women, they're this and that. No shit, Sherlock, they're women. Oh, men, they're just this and that. Yeah, we're men. And it's a difference between men and women. And that's the beauty of it, is that, you know, we are arguing about being different and want to fight for saying that we're equal. This is the most craziest thing that I have ever seen over my 60 years. It was easily known that man is a man and a woman's a woman, and they're two different beings. But we find that in relationships, we're arguing. It took my wife several years in our marriage where, she would sometimes ask a question of maybe why I said or did something. And I'm like, because that's just me. Well, maybe you could have this and that. I said, no, 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 don't bitch me down. Don't bitch me down. Don't turn me into a limp wrist, jello back, weak link, weak weakling man to where now I'm walking around sissified. And this is what we do to others. I mean, men, some men want their women to be like the one to think that way they think. And as soon as she raised her masculinity, now you arguing because you couldn't even enjoy her feminine side and you wanted her to think like and act like you. And now all of a sudden you got you. And now you're sitting around fussing and fighting. It's the craziest thing. And so we should appreciate our differences. We should at least consider that we're opposite sexes and we can come together and make it as one, build as one. We need both sides. Very important. Fred said facts. Most definitely. Well, I didn't get no calls today. Unless somebody wants to call in, somebody wants to put in the chat question, we can do that. Coming to a close here. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'm going to go ahead and ride this out. I was just telling my wife, I said, I remember when I started my other channel, which I got I just turned 344,000 subscribers. I said, but I remembered when I started, the 6 people, you know, just doing a live and only have 5, 6 people. And it's like, wow, I'm back here with this channel, but I know it's the grind. It takes the time. You got to put the time in. You got to build the people's confidence. You got to show people, what you're talking about. You got to put it in. You got to do the work. And that's the work that I'm willing to do for a people out here that is in a dying world. So with that, family, I appreciate you all coming in just for a moment, just to hear. Shout out to those who have brought in your kind words and your responses. I appreciate you all because it's things like that that keeps me going. We're all a family. And if ain't nobody gonna pat somebody on the back, give them a kind word, encourage, or motivate somebody, sometimes we just wither away and we die. Well, this is your man, not your boy, Papa Roo coming at you. Hey, I'm out. Peace and blessing to each and every one of you all.